Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Grace Alana here, or Grace the Astrologer. Now, today's video is going to be a spicy one. Today's video is going to be about the astrology of promiscuity. We're going to be talking about astrology placements that could make somebody a 304. Now, I randomly found these notes the other day. This was a video that I did on TikTok a few months ago, maybe even a year ago. I don't know. I record so many videos. But I figured this would be a good video to put on TikTok. So, the main things that we're going to be focusing on, a lot of the things that you will see emphasized in these placements that I'm listing are going to be, one, the planet Venus, because Venus is the planet that represents love, sex, and romance, pleasure, joy, so on and so forth. I'm also going to be mentioning the 5th house because modern astrology will tell you that sex is the 8th house thing. So hold on. Rewind. Look, let's backtrack a little bit. Sex falls into the 5th house. One of the reasons why sex and sexuality falls into the 5th house is because Venus is naturally associated with the 5th house. Planets have certain houses that they naturally align with out of the 7 classical planets, and Venus rejoices in the 5th house. Venus's natural domain is in the 5th house. So a lot of the significations of the 5th house come from Venus. For example, Venus is love, sex, joy, fun, hobbies, romance. Venus is everything that you love and care about. And when you think about the 5th house is pleasure, joy, creativity, fun, hobbies, like a lot of those things, so on and so forth, come from Venus. So the 5th house is emphasized because the 5th house is the house of sex. But modern astrology will tell you that sex is an 8th house theme because modern astrology conflates signs with houses, and it says, because Scorpio is the 8th sign and Scorpio is a sign that's associated with the genitals, we can give the energy of the 8th house, we can associate that with Scorpio, which is not true. Signs don't equal houses. Again, like I said, those things are conflated. If you're interested in learning more about that and even about the significations of the planets, you can look up the Planetary joy scheme, and you can also look up the theme of Monday, which is like the signification for like certain planets and houses and things like that. So tap into that. But yeah, we're going to be mostly focusing on the 5th house, Venus, and also the 7th house, because the 7th house is the house of relationships and partnerships, and it represents your overall one-to-one relationship dynamics. And it can often represent, it does represent like your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, a committed relationship, whereas the 5th house is like more casual romances. Your sneaky link is going to fall into the 5th house, where like your husband's going to fall into the 7th house. But anywho, those are the main things that we're focusing on here. So first bullet point on my list, Venus in Aries, Sagittarius, or Gemini. So Venus in Aries, Venus is ruled by Mars. So Mars, another thing, modern astrology tells you that Mars is sex. I don't associate Mars with sex because Mars is violence. Mars is abuse. Violence is not like in a modern society. A lot of things that are associated with sex can definitely be Martian in nature. When you think about how people act, abuse, I don't want to get into that. But Venus, again, because it's joy, it's pleasure, it's one-to-one relationships, it's all of those things, is the planet that rules sex. But I can't acknowledge that Mars might maybe be like the instinct. It might be the thing that might make you, because at the end of the day, Mars is physicality and action. So I can agree that Mars plays a role, but I would say like sex as a whole is like a pleasureful experience, and that's definitely Venus. But having Venus ruled by Mars, especially when you think about Aries is a sign that's very fast, it's very impulsive, it's very action oriented. Having a Venus in Aries can definitely make somebody a little slutty. Venus in Sagittarius as well, because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which is abundance, which is growth, which is expansion. And in general, I like to call Sag the wild and free sign, because I'll just say in general, my Sag friend, wildest bitches I know. But in general, Sagittarius energy, again, being ruled by Jupiter, they're so adventurous, they're so free, they're so open, and again, they'll do anything, and they'll do it a lot. And also Gemini, because Gemini is a sign that's associated with like constant stimulation, constantly being open, flexibility and versatility. So even thinking about that, and you can even maybe mention some of the other mutable signs. Like I could see reasons, not really more so Virgo Venus, but I could even see like throwing Pisces Venus in here. Although again, Aries, Sag, or Gemini Venus definitely makes sense. Venus Mars aspects, again, like I said, Venus is the act of pleasure. I don't want to get this thing demonetized if I keep saying that word over and over again. I need to find a code word. I don't know, we just gonna talk, fuck it. If something happens to this video or whatever, I'll just re-record it. But Venus Mars aspects, because again, Venus is pleasure, Mars is the instinct, Mars is the drive, Mars is the motivation. And I've definitely noticed that people who have Venus Mars aspects, they be horny as hell. It's me. Don't tell nobody. But no, seriously though, like even not just outside of myself, like I've really noticed that people who have Venus Mars aspects, they be horny, especially if it's like a harsh aspect, because that could indicate like a lack of like control or discipline, or even a conjunction, because it really blends together the energy of those planets. Strong fifth house activity, especially again having a planet like Venus or Mars there, because Venus rejoices in the fifth house. It's operating naturally, it's cool, it likes to be there. But even again, like maybe somebody who has like a fifth house stellium, or you know, even if there's just like maybe some lots, or maybe just some focalized energy in the fifth house, that could indicate that pleasure is something that's important to them. Uranus in the 5th or 7th house. So Uranus, it's so funny. I just had a talk with one of my astrologer friends today on TikTok. He was live, and we always tap. Well, he just went live. This was my first time seeing him live, but whatever. He taps into my live a lot, and we talk about, he's another person who uses a typical traditional approach when it comes to astrology. And we were talking about how Uranus is pretty much the only outer planet that we like to use. Like I can't stand Neptune, and I don't really like Pluto, because what he said was that, and I agree with him, a lot of the significations for the outer planets you can attribute to other planets. Like for example, a lot of the significations for Neptune are really under the domain of Venus. Like people say Neptune is creativity, that's Venus. Neptune is your dreams and intuition, that's the moon. Neptune is spirituality, that's Jupiter. Neptune is illusion and delusion and confusion, that's the moon. Like a lot of those other significations you can use for other things. Even when you think about Pluto being destruction and violence and toxicity and things that aren't positive. Mars. Uranus, he said, is really the only outer planet that you can, he mentioned the fact that it's the only outer planet that you can see with the naked eye. But he was also referencing the fact that a lot of the Uranus things, which represents things that are like unconventional, things that are unexpected, things that are shocking, you can't really, I mean, yeah, you can attribute some of those things to Mars and Saturn, but like, it makes sense. I feel like Uranus is much more visible than it is to use those other planets. But yeah, having Uranus in the 5th or 7th house, because Uranus is a planet that's associated with rebellion. Uranus is this planet that's associated with like freedom, individuality, doing your own thing, acting atypical to what's conventional, or again, kind of just like carving your own path. So again, somebody who has Uranus in the 5th house or 7th house might have an unconventional approach to relationships, where they might be wild or have chaotic experiences in those things. And that could definitely, one signification that could come from that is them being a little hoish. Jupiter in the 5th or 7th house, because Jupiter is abundance, it's growth, it's expansion, it's a placement that can definitely speak to people who want to maybe like do it a lot, or even thinking about like in the 7th house, that can maybe speak to somebody who's like constantly in and out of relationships, which again could, if you in 5 relationships in a year or 2 years, you're a hoe. Like, what are you doing? Like, so yeah, you know, having Jupiter in the 5th or 7th house could definitely speak to that. Something else that's not on my list, but I would definitely think about now, even also, I can see like having the nodes in the 5th or 7th house. because if you have the nodes, especially like the north node in the 5th house, that could indicate that there's like an increase of energy there, because the nodes represent, like, north node is like an insatiable desire, like something that you just really want to do. It represents an increase in energy and efforts, whereas the south node represents a decrease in efforts. So even having like the north node specifically in the 5th house, I could see that indicating somebody who really likes to have an inclination towards pleasure. Or even thinking about it in the 7th house, this could be somebody who has an inclination towards relationships or being with other people, or just constantly being stimulated or entertained or engaged with somebody else, which could make sense. But yeah, Jupiter is growth, abundance, amplification. So somebody having Jupiter or Jupiter in the 5th or 7th house could definitely speak to that energy. And I gotta write down the north node when I'm done with this video. I can even say like Venus Jupiter aspects, because again, Venus is pleasure, Jupiter is abundance, growth, it's expansion. And everybody thinks that when the two, I always say when the two benefics link up, when Jupiter and Venus link up, yes, it absolutely can bring positive experiences for somebody. It can bring you more money. It can bring you a lot of positive relationships. It can bring you a lot of relationships, or even a very positive relationship experience with somebody. But too much of a good thing can definitely quickly, easily become a bad thing. And when you think about Venus, again, representing pleasure, and Venus can also be associated with indulgence, and Jupiter, which is excess, which is amplification, which is exacerbation. You bring that energy together, and especially if it's something like a harsh aspect, or if one of those planets is debilitated, Venus and Jupiter together can definitely indicate somebody who has a lack of discipline, or somebody who really likes to indulge, or somebody who really loves love and relationships, and that can lead them to getting themselves into a bunch of shit when it comes to romantic encounters. You already know how that could go. I would even say the 5th house or the 7th house ruler aspecting Uranus or Jupiter. Again, I don't think I need to keep explaining the same things over and over again, but you can look at a planet in a house, yes, has an impact, but you always want to look at the planet that rules that specific house, because that's always going to give you the most context for that planet, because it really sets the tone for that house as a whole. Again, it's the ruler of the house, and it sounds like exactly what it sounds like. That planet is in charge of whatever else is going on in that house. It has the flavor, it has that energy of that sign, but also that planet that rules it. So yeah, if the 5th house or 7th house ruler is aspecting Uranus or Jupiter, I could even say if it's aspecting like maybe Venus in a harsh aspect, Mars in a harsh aspect. These aren't things that I wrote down in my notes, but it makes sense. And also I want to say Venus in the 5th or 7th house, self-explanatory, but even Venus ruling the 5th or 7th house. And I could even say like maybe Jupiter ruling the 5th or 7th house, I could see making sense. And my last bullet point, which was something that wasn't originally on my list, but something I thought about right before I decided to record this video, I could even see Venus in a harsh aspect with Saturn, because Saturn is discipline, Saturn is structure, Saturn is commitment. So if somebody has Venus, which again is love and relationships and sex and joy and pleasure, in a harsh aspect with Saturn, that can make somebody maybe be fearful of commitment, which might make them, you know, sleep around or do a lot. Or it could just again indicate that somebody has a lack of discipline when it comes to pleasure or things that they enjoy, things that they think are fun, or even a bad relationship with indulgence. And did I put Venus Jupiter? No, I didn't even put Venus Uranus aspects, but Venus and Uranus aspects, something else that I could see making sense again, because Venus is relationships, Uranus represents things that are unconventional, things that are shocking, and that can definitely indicate wild or loose sexual behavior, all in all. So yeah, let me know what you think. Do you have any of these placements? Do you have Heaux tendencies? Let me know something. Thank you so much for watching this video. As always, comment and let me know if there are any other topics, any celebrity breakdowns, anything else that you would like me to talk about astrologically. I'm dead ass serious about trying to get monetized before the end of this year is over. So I'm pumping out these videos. The goal at this point is at least 3 YouTube videos a week. I don't see why I can't do it. This only took me about 15 minutes to do, so I'm on my duty. I'm on my Zoom. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Go follow me on all of the socials. Moon World Mommy is my name on Threads, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of the things. Go engage with me on there. If you like me, you like the way that I do readings, you're interested in my content, the link is going to be in the description to book a reading, moonworldmommy.com. Any questions that you have about yourself and your life, I can use astrology to answer. And also, if you're interested in my content, you want more exclusive access to me, go subscribe to my Patreon, because all of my video notes that I write, I put on Patreon. And if you're a paid member for $15 a month, you get to ask me one question that I can answer. I could do like a mini reading. Like, somebody just joined the Patreon and she asked me what career was best for her. I answered it. She was like, oh my God, I love that. I'm about to book her for a reading. So tap in. Mwah. Love you guys down. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.